Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me on the Slice of Construction podcast. I'm your host, Jared Taylor. Joining me today, we have Adam Stark, the co-founder of Jet.Build. Adam, how are you today?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
I'm excited to have you here. Let's start off by the overused question that I ask pretty much everyone is you're in a Jet.Build sweatshirt, walking down the road, and someone goes, "What is Jet.Build?" What do you tell them?
We simplify project management for construction and development.
And then they're going to say, "What made you want to start that?"
That's an easy one for me, man. I started my career working for builders in New York City, and it took about a week or 2 weeks to realize the inefficiencies of trying to manage hundreds of millions of dollars in development and construction, hundreds of people, stakeholders, right, teams, with email and Excel. And that's when I realized, all right, there needs to be a better way to do this, and that was the inception of Jet.Build.
Why do you think people, in particular in the construction space, but it's not just construction, it's any space, for you to like want to build this, there's
Mhm.
always that moment, right, of like, why is it still being done a particular way? And it's always mind boggling to me how in some spaces, and it seems like construction was like that for a while, there was a lot of this, well, that's how we've always done it, right? That type of attitude. So how do you shift people in this space from that mindset of this is how we've always done it to this is the new way to do it? We created it because
Mhm.
the old way was inefficient. Like how you don't need to go into like how you're selling, how you're marketing, or anything like that. I'm just you know what have you seen in changing mindsets from old thinking to new thinking?
Yeah, it's a great question. I like to start off that question by creating recognition of, um, the word that comes to mind is fracture, but I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just simply, to build a project, you need a lot of stakeholders, right? That's a word I used before. So a lot of different teams need to collaborate, which are different companies, right, in order to build a project. So giving that credit in the sense that it's not in one internal company or two internal companies that are building a significant tangible thing. It's a lot of companies, right? So that's kind of, I think, where the beginnings of friction occurred and still occur, generally speaking, because it's difficult to solve for getting everyone, different companies, different people onto a single platform. So that's kind of like the core of the problem as we see it. Now, what we recognized working for builder, owner, operators, vertically integrated, what we recognized was a lot of times you have external stakeholders coming on projects with their systems, making it difficult for everyone to agree on a single source, right? SSOT, single source of truth. So what we're seeing to address kind of the question now in particular, we're seeing two things. One is a natural change of guard, as I like to call it. So different generation are now in position to be decision makers, and that generation is one that grew up with a smartphone, right? So they are more inclined to see technology and understand why it's relevant for their business and how it will impact their lives, their day-to-day work, but also business as a whole, their projects, their project teams, etc. And then the second piece of it is to recognize, similar to really any industry, right? You have the early adopters or early creators of technology, which, I mean, it's becoming more and more obvious how outdated their products are, their technology, the speed of the product, the clunkiness of it. So when you come in with a fresh kind of update of existing solutions, it tends to be received in a good manner, right? And what I mean by fresh update is just a natural, simplifying what's already happening, right? Everyone's going to need a budget. Everyone's going to need a schedule. Everyone's going to need your basic, construction ops, your basic collaboration tools. So how do you simplify what was built years back as first movers and improve those processes even slightly? It'll create compounding effects. So that's kind of how we address the scenario and what we're seeing evolve to today's times.
So, and I know on your site you have Jet Build as a true end-to-end solution, and I think there's a place for just building the individual product, right? That plugs and plays into certain things. But I think the best way is still to build an end-to-end solution. I didn't do this at my first company. I made that mistake, right? I built a part of the process when I will say I wanted to build an end-to-end solution, different space. I came from originally the healthcare world right? But so I really like that you're doing that. That being said, that can mean a lot of things. What is in in True.Build, like what does that mean for what's it called? Talk me through what an end-to-end solution means for you.
So generally speaking, our ICP, ideal customer profile, is the developer owner, and the reason we look at it that way to really answer your question in terms of end to end, right? So a developer owner is going to start process of a project well before a GC is involved, well before any external stakeholders involved, for that matter. So in taking the developer owner as our ICP, what ends up happening is you get their data logged in. They're centralizing their operations and flow from a stage well before GC is involved. Take that into the design process still before GC is involved, and then once pre-con starts and you start vetting out your GCs, bidding your GCs, and moving forward in the construction and operation process, we're taking all of that data from the true beginning, moving it forward through construction operations and closeout, and then also even at that point supporting some asset management, property management, dynamics to create this really robust end-to-end data platform, which could bring us into another conversation as it relates to AI and what we're doing with that moving forward.
Now, in the as you've been building this, what have been some of the challenges that you first came across, and then how did you get past those early challenges?
Man, there's always challenges pretty much on a daily basis. It never ends. So you gotta be able to take you know go with the punches per se. So challenges early on is I think similar really to any company in any industry is getting your early adopters, right. So proving out the concept, proving out the necessity for it, and then working with those early adopters to evolve the product to a point where people will see the product, see what you're building, and understand it immediately, right? So I think that's really the getting over the hump per se stage. And I think what's a little bit unique in terms of how we structured Jet and working on Jet full time was we were developing the product for ourselves, my business partner and I, when we were working in industry. So we didn't create a product or a solution, coming from some external need or some, theory. It was really just solving for our own issues, understanding what existed in the market, right? So improving upon that first mover, product. So what we were able to do was really create uh, a very solid product before we, started collecting more information from, paying clients. So that allowed us to evolve. I think and I'll recommend that to any entrepreneur. I think that process allowed us to evolve at a much quicker pace than I guess what would be a traditional route of, building an idea and trying to evolve that idea, without using it on yourself first.
What really are you looking to tackle next? Like, what's kind of that next area of focus? Obviously, there's still always going to be work to do,
Right.
right? But like, what are you most excited about into sinking your teeth next with the business?
Yeah. So as you pointed out, any company, any technology company you look at, if it's Apple, if it's Samsung, Google, it doesn't matter who, they're always pushing updates, right? Updates will never stop for any technology, never should stop. That said, what we're looking at next, and I kind of alluded to that a moment ago, is kind of the what I like to call the future of AI in how we build, and being former site operators, right? We were former construction people. We think about AI as actionable reality, meaning like what can help teams actually today, do their jobs better, easier, simpler, faster, more efficient, etc. So the way that we look at AI is first and foremost leveraging the fact that we're an end-to-end solution, right? So that means a lot of data is getting collected on Jet. So how do we use that data for automating tasks or providing insights that would be predictive, right? Showing you kind of what might happen based on the collection of data from your existing projects, for example. So, what we're looking at in terms of, I say future, but it's really very, very near future. I mean, if you are an early client of ours for the past few years, that means you're going to start receiving are seeing these benefits very soon, right? So the moment you start indexing and using a central source, indexing your data, the sooner you'll be able to leverage AI tools. And the example I like to give is, everyone, of course, knows what ChatGPT is, right? How is that functioning? How is that working? Well, it's using the collective data pool that is like Google, for example, and leveraging that to provide you with smart answers, according to whatever you're asking it. So the same thing with Jet and understanding how AI can support you and your assets, generally speaking. So that's kind of what we're gonna start pushing out in the very very near future.
I'm glad you mentioned AI because it's not a podcast these days if you don't mention AI on a. It has to be at least once, right, on the show.
Right.
So related to that, what particular to the construction space, like what opportunities do you believe that it presented, not just for you, like for your business, but for just the construction space in general? What opportunities um, are exciting as it relates to
Yeah.
AI? And then let's also talk about something that people still fail to fully discuss, and it's still the risks of AI and what we should
Mhm.
be still worried about, right? You always hear people freaking out, oh, it's going to get rid of all these jobs. It's going to, it should allow people to do their job better and more efficiently with less errors, right? And better
Mhm.
data analysis more than anything. But would love your take on how it's impacting construction, both positively and then even the cautionary side as well.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the cautionary side. We get asked a lot about how our automation tools work on the financial models, the financial module, right? How we're supporting project finances. And that's where I always bring up the biggest kind of like caution, the alert, where, for lack of a better term there, where I say, there are ways where we can automate a lot of numbers, is how I'll call it. At the same time, we're very hesitant to do that because if one number is incorrect, that could have a significant compounding effect to your, pay app, right? Your requisition. So we're still not, pushing automation as it relates to like invoice management or requisition management. So that would be our like kind of cautionary side of things in terms of finances. I don't know that it's necessary, it being AI. I don't think it's like 1,000% foolproof yet. So I would caution people on the financial side of things. Like definitely, you still have to check that, right? Unless you're okay taking really major risks, I would suggest checking that side manually. That said, in terms of the positives, I'll break it into a few categories. So the category that we're focused on with Jet is kind of what I just described, right? It's admin, right? How do you re- reduce or potentially remove administrative just time waste, generally speaking, for projects? That's what, that's a big focus for us, and that's what we're striving toward is to just provide teams with more time to do things that are more important than clocking in a daily report or producing a report manually, right, on a daily or weekly basis. It's a crazy time waste. So that's on our perspective. I think there's two other general angles where we'll see over time increase of use and increase of value. So one is on the AE, architect and engineering side of things, where it'll automate a lot of, again, these like manual processes. I can't speak to the accuracy of the AI models that are doing, automating repetitive, drawing makeups and whatnot. But I do think eventually it will get there, and it'll basically allow architects and engineers to focus on bigger picture things like how to improve efficiency of building systems or improve, drawing efficiency, generally speaking. So I think that's exciting. I can't speak to it more than that. And then the other angle is hardware, right? So we're software, but then there's also AI hardware like robots, lasers, AI for safety, cameras, drones, etc. I think in a lot of those hardware items, you're already seeing implementation that's doing a lot of good work. Uh, Again, like the examples I just provided for safety, imaging, generally speaking, whether it be drone or on site, and just lasers, generally speaking, for just material efficiency and building.
Yeah, it's I saw a bricklaying robot the other day, and I was like, "This is interesting." And um, I'm wondering at what point are we going to have the robots versus humans like competition in construction and like actually, um, here's probably a crazy thing that'll end up happening. The robot will push the human to actually probably get more done on that. Like, kind of
Sure.
how, yeah, it's super interesting. Um, Yet there's got to be caution there though too, right? Like, how does that get implemented effectively? And but I do think we will have that. Like it's
Mhm.
crazy to think we won't have that one day, right? It's a matter of when, not if. Um, it's just really cool seeing how much transformations happen in the construction space, even the last couple of years, right? And it's just going to become so much more over the next few years.
Mhm.
Um, but as we wrap up here, Adam, what's next for you in Jet.Build?
Yeah, anyone interested, I always encourage you to simply reach out. I love to brainstorm. I love to hear feedback. If you have an idea of what can help you on your job sites, tell me. If we don't have it, love to improve, love to implement it. And then in terms of what's next, we're actually presenting in 2 weeks from now at Blueprint Vegas, and we're going to talk about a lot of what I was just mentioning. In short, we're going to talk about AI and Jet and how we're going to improve efficiency for job site operators on a project level, and then also on a more kind of macro, project planning level. So AI is coming. We're going to do it in a way that people can use and see its benefit, reap its benefits today and in the near future.
I love it. Adam, thanks so much for joining us here today. Looking forward to future conversations.
Thanks, Jared. Appreciate it.